Greetings, I am Michael Kahn from Truth Force International People's Revolution Movement, which is me and everybody who wants to join in revolution. I'm the author of Angry, Loud, and Clear Truth, The Untold Nature of Christianity, and Exposing the Money Machine. Books that are changing the world. They're outside-the-box thinking and revolutionary, teaching you truth. Everything is scientific fact in these books, and are basically promoting change and exposing the powers that be and all the systems and principalities and evils they are in and why and how they were created. Today I'm going to give you quite a long message. I urge you to hang in there, follow it carefully, listen to this. I'm going to give you a long history with names and dates, documents, quotes, information, how we got to where we're going and why we need to change, and a solution. You will see the source of the evil, who did it and their motivations, how the results, and how we can stop the evil that they have intended. Okay, first let's go on here with overview. Mankind started thousands of years ago, not millions, not 6,000 like the Bible says. I don't know how long ago mankind started. I debunk evolution in my book, Angry, Loud, and Clear Truth. I do not believe for a moment the Bible's, explanation in Genesis, but intelligent design is evident. Basically, we cannot get order out of chaos. We cannot have interdependent species. We cannot have reproductive systems evolved when you can't get past one generation without being fully in place. So you see, we have intelligent design. Yes, there is great order in this world, and it is complex, highly intelligent design. Now, let us go on to say gods. I'm not going to say I have great knowledge over God. I was a Christian for 10 years, no longer. I've never seen God, but there is no doubt in my mind that there's an evil entity in control. Evil people are in power. Disease, hunger, war. Our good God is in control of all this. Hell. God created hell for mankind. He says in the books for angels, well, whatever. But what kind of good God, in foreknowledge and predestination, as the Bible certainly teaches, basically would create hell and put most people in forever torment forever and ever, and these are people he loves? Come on. Obviously, an evil entity rules. I will get into more later. But let it be said, the first civilization of advancement was in Mesopotamia. The second was Egypt. We have very little information about Mesopotamia, so let's involve ourselves in Egypt. Egypt had advanced construction, made pyramids, which were huge, stones, which were traveled and put in engraved or cut in for. They did this thousands and thousands of years ago, far even beyond what we have today, knowledge and ability. In many ways, cosmetics, embalming, astronomy, they had high intelligence. Now, this ancient civilization, they basically had what's called the Kemet Mystery Schools, the Lucian Mystery Schools, Kemet. And that is where Plato and Aristotle and others got their wisdom from. They taught allegories, as we find in the Bible, in both Old and New Testaments, parables. You teach you the foundation of lies, to teach you lessons, to get the point across. But the point of the matter is, if its foundation is a lie, as in the Bible, how much truth can there be in it? It's a whole falsehood, even from the foundation. And to manipulate people using lies is not good. You understand, you're coming up against evil people with high intelligence who manipulate and deceive. And of course, Pharaoh had armies. He called himself a god. And back then they worshipped gods like Isis and Horus. And this is basically a spoiler. But even today, in the back of your $1 bill, you see a pyramid. And above, that's the land of Egypt, slavery. And above the pyramid is an eye, the eye of Horus, the all-seeing eye of Satan, same being. I basically proved in my books that Horus, Jehovah, Jesus, Allah, and Satan are all one and the same. But basically, you see a picture of this one seeing all-seeing eye above the pyramid, all-seeing eye of Satan above the pyramid. Remember, we're one nation under God. And underneath the pyramid, and this is a spoiler, are the words Novus Ordo Seclorum. That is a Latin, the language of the Roman Catholic Church. It means New World Order. Now, let us go further. In Egypt, which is well known to have a god, which is an evil god, the pharaohs call themselves gods, as did the Romans. The Romans also had and the Greeks had advanced civilization also in later years. And in 323 BC, the general Ptolemy, under Alexander the Great, the Greek leader, he basically conquered Egypt. And let me get one more thing about Egypt. I'm sorry I forgot about this. The ancient Hebrews were not Ashkenazi Jews. The ancient Hebrews were black. It says in the song, the Hebrews, the Jews, there was no physical appearances described. They didn't show what people looked like. However, in the Song of Solomon, in the first chapter, the woman says, who supposedly represents, all the scholars tell you she represents the Hebrew people. She says, I am dark from working in the fields. And she's oppressed by her sisters, etc., so her family. So these are slaves, and they are dark, they are black. If the ancient Egyptian characters, the sculptures of their people, the features of the faces are Negro features. The original Hebrews, Egyptians, were black. Why do I say Egyptians and the Hebrews are the same thing? Because Moses, the first author of the Old Testament, he was an Egyptian prince. Who could believe that what they said, what he wrote in Genesis and Exodus and Deuteronomy and the other books that he wrote, the 5 books he wrote? Who could believe Babel, the flood, the plagues, the walls of Jericho? These stories, terrible lies, terrible lies. So Moses, who wrote the Old Testament, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, he was an Egyptian prince, and he started a new nation. He left Egypt with a new nation and went off, and he started the Hebrews. And the Hebrews were black. And the Jews in Israel today, the Ashkenazi Jews, and by the way, I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, born that way, they basically are sourced in Edom. They are Edomites. Later they're known as Khazarians, Khazars, and they were in Western Europe, and they joined the Hebrews at a point, for political reasons, for self-interest. Now, going back, in 323 BC, as I've said, the Greeks conquered the Egyptians to get the information in the Kemet mystery schools, as well as to spread their empire. In 30 BC, the Romans conquered the Greeks and it took over the Egyptian territory. And we know very well that the New Testament recounts the Romans being in charge, occupying Israel at the time. Now, in 70 A.D., the Hebrews led a rebellion. The Hebrews had a rebellion against Rome, and the temple was destroyed then. But a Pharisee by the name of Josephus was leading the Hebrew revolution, and he saw the Romans were going to destroy the temple, destroy the Hebrews, that they had absolutely no chance. He went over to the Roman side, and he was a Pharisee, and he married a Roman woman, a rich Roman woman, became an aristocrat. He penned a book you still get today called The Antiquity of the Jews. It's a geographically and historically correct account of what went on back then. And inside, that is the only extra-biblical reference that included Jesus in it from the 1st century. And if Jesus was so damn big and popular and did all these miracles, you would think more than one person would mention him. And why did Josephus mention him? I believe he wrote the New Testament, and here is why. The New Testament has many basic conceptual contradictions, wrong values, outright lies, and it is a deceitful, occult book like the Bible, magic and spells, and like the Old Testament. Now let me get why. I was a Christian for 10 years. I studied the Bible 10,000 hours, from the original Greek and Hebrew. I taught Bible for 8 years. I believe I was a true believer. I loved Jesus, loved God, loved the Bible. Not knowing his true character or the Bible's true character. I knew pretty well inside. I read it 20 times from Genesis to Revelation and studied about 200 or 300 subjects in depth. And I create a Bible study every week, taught it 3 times a week. So, I understand the Bible well. I finally figured out the true nature of the faith in 2015 after 10 years, 11 years of being a Christian. Left the faith. I was a pillar in a church I attended. I was the greeter. I taught Bible. I was well standing in the congregation, but I left it immediately upon seeing its character. And let me make the point very quickly. The Old Testament, by following God, you win wars, get wealth, and acquire slaves. In the New Testament, be a good slave. In Romans 13 and 1 Peter chapter 2, it says, the governor is placed there by God to do good, honor, and obey him. What one politician or governor of any state or any country is really good? And what kind of God would put these evil, lying, deceptive, greedy, selfish, controlling people in power? An evil one, if he does so. Now, in 6 different places in the New Testament, it says almost these exact words in each of these different areas. It says, slaves, obey your masters, no matter how wicked they are. And some of the scriptures actually says, your earthly masters. It promotes slavery and servitude in many areas other than those 6 specific scriptures saying those words. So you need to understand the New Testament was written by Josephus, a Pharisee who knew the Torah inside out, to create a book that would entrap Rome's citizens. Now, it's a Roman Empire, it's a huge empire that would trap its citizens to make them submissive and slave-like mentality to make them easier to rule over. And the Bible was written for that purpose, and many people fell for it. And finally, in the 3rd and 4th century, under Constantine, the Christianity was instated as a state religion. It was mandated to be Christian, actually Roman Catholic. And get what Roman Catholic implies. The Roman Empire, decrees that you take this Catholic universal religion as your church, as your religion, and impose it, and you must use it. You must worship that God. You must. I'm not saying that. That's the Romans are saying. In other words, but it is Roman. Doesn't say Christian, Roman church. So Rome is more important. Now, I will show you later through this, and in my book, Angry, Loud, and Clear Truth, it is subtitled, The Growth and Mechanisms of the Romerican Empire. So you see, America is used as a tool of the Vatican. Now, the mystery school going. Now understand, other than these advanced civilizations like Egypt and Rome and Greeks, there were indigenous peoples in many lands where they had tribal civilization. They were hunters and gatherers, working maybe 13 to 15 hours a week, hunting and gathering, a little time cooking. They didn't work, they didn't war, they were peaceful tribes who lived in harmony with nature and with each other. They did not have gods, so most of them had spirits, they would worship nature or whatever, but they didn't have gods. They didn't have rulers, they had elders and meetings, a whole different way of life than what's called civilization, which wars and has gods and rules and armies. It's a different way of life for these so-called primitive peoples that were not like the civilization as we know it. Now understand, the Greeks conquered Egypt for the Kemet mystery schools because that was like the original magic, psychology, knowledge, convincing ways to propagandize, as the Bible certainly does. Now, let us go now to the Jesuits. The Roman Church, they had, first of all, they had the Knights Templar who were used in the Crusades. They were the army of the Catholic Church. They were used in the Crusades. They killed the Jews, the Arabs, the Muslims, the Christians. They killed everybody. Gave the Roman Church a black eye. The Roman Church dismissed them because it made them look bad. And what did these Knights Templar do? They went into banking, and they went into mercenary work, and into the studying the occult, practicing the occult. And in 1776, they changed their names to Freemasonry. And you also had that same year, 1776, Mayer Amschel Bauer. He was the first in the Rothschild line. He changed his name to Rothschild, but Mayer Amschel Bauer, who owned England, he was the richest man in England. He collected taxes for the king because the king owed money, owed this banker money. The government owned the money. And he was the richest man, 10 times richer than the next richest person in England. He did it all in like 30 years, acquiring wealth. He basically he joined forces with the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, and they created the Illuminati. And Jesuits are going to get to in just a minute, but let me just go to one more thing about that time, that year. 1776, of course, we had the revolution in America, which didn't really win. And the truth of the matter is, and I forgot something. I apologize. Because this is different history than you have been reading in your college textbooks. Let me explain something. A Golder Lerner, PhD, she explains that the elite few make rules and rewrite history with this parable. There is a fabled tale about a little boy who questioned how Tarzan could have defeated all the jungle animals, including the mighty lion. The child's mother replied, "My son, you'll get a different story when the lion learns to write." Contained in her response are two valuable lessons on truth-telling. First, there's more than one version of the truth, or so-called truth. Second, the one with the pen, and it's a Freudian pun intended, is at the defining center. It can tell a story that is, quote, taken to be inclusive, real, and whole. And understand, we have been played big time. I'm giving you the truth. And you'll see how all the puzzle pieces fit in. Now, let's look at the Jesuits now. I include a chapter on the Jesuits and how the Nazis were a tool of the Roman Empire, of the Vatican. And I'm now going to tell you about Jesuits. Let's hold wrong thing here. I'm going to go into Jesuits. So we're going to have here a minute. Let me look at my computer so I can read from my book. Nuts. Hold on a second. I'm getting to it. Okay. In The Secret History of the Jesuits by Edmund Paris, it has an introduction by Alberto Rivera, a former Jesuit priest who was trained in the Vatican. And here's an excerpt from the introduction by Roberto. "The most dangerous men are those who appear very religious, especially when they are organized and in a position of authority. They have the deep respect of the people who are ignorant of their ungodly push for power behind the scenes. These men, who pretend to love God, will resort to murder, incite wars and revolution if necessary to help their cause. They are crafty, intelligent, smooth, religious politicians who live in a shadowy world of secrets, intrigue, and phony holiness." But the cunning Jesuits successfully managed over the years to remove that power into the hands of the denomination's headquarters, and now pushed almost all the Protestant denominations into the arms of the Vatican. And my book, by the way, shows that by 1980, the Vatican ruled over every Christian denomination in America. The Vatican rules every Christian denomination all over the world, including over Christianity, Protestantism, Lutheranism. All of them fall underneath the Vatican. And now the Vatican has been making treaties and alignments with the Muslims also, and of course with the Jews. There's a new one world religion coming. Now, let us go on. By the way, these Jesuits, they're wicked. They were formed in the 1500s by Ignatius of Loyola. I think it was 1534 they were finished being created. Like I said, assassinations, guile, deception, manipulations. Now, Himmler of the Nazis, who created the OSS, did it in direct copy of the Jesuit hierarchy. He was a Jesuit. Now, when the U.S. and Russia, of course, but when the U.S. defeated Germany, Nazis, and Russia was the real ones that did that, but the U.S., they imported 5,000 OSS agents and created the SS, later the NSA, and later the CIA. Headed first by Donovan, then by Dulles. And Dulles, by the way, had been an attorney and banker for the Nazis, for Hitler, not for Nazis, but for Hitler. And so you see what Dulles in the CIA source is in. And later you'll see more of their workings. Now I'm going to go with some more history things you need to know. Now, the American Constitution, which had a lot of authorization within by Thomas Jefferson. And he's the one who wrote that we are created equal, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Yeah. He had 180 slaves. Now, you need to understand something. The Constitution and Declaration of Independence were written by rich, landowning, lawyers. Many were Freemasons. Most were Freemasons. Many also had slaves. And Jefferson had 180 slaves who wrote Life, Liberty, All Equal. Yeah. It's all. America was an evil, deceptive, manipulative, murderous nation right from the start. Killing Indians, the natives, killing the British. The British were no better. But they're under. Let us find out the source of America. Let us go into this. Because I'm going to give you a little bit more. This is other stuff. If you haven't read my book, you don't know this. Columbus, in children's textbooks claim that Columbus discovered America while seeking a less expensive route to facilitate easier transportation of spices to and from India. Cloves are so important. Not really. Here is a quote from the journal, from his journey of 1492. Your Highnesses, as Catholic Christians and princes who love and promote the holy Christian faith and are enemies of the doctrine of Muhammad and of all idolatry and heresy, determined to send me, Christopher Columbus, to the above-mentioned countries of India to see the said princes, peoples, and territories, and to learn their disposition and the proper methods of converting them to our holy faith, and furthermore directed that I should not proceed by land to the east as customary. So it goes on. So then later he goes on and looks to find out the best way to conquer them militarily, see what their weapons were, what their character was. And he saw that they had no knowledge of metallurgy or swords. He gave them a sword, they cut themselves trying to handle it. They didn't even know what a sword was. So that's why natives were killed. They had no concept of warfare as the Europeans. The Europeans are experts at killing. Okay. Now, the Constitution, which is pretty good, it gives you rights. Now, you own these rights. They are innate. They aren't given to you by any evil god. You have rights because you're born as an equal person. Nobody should have the right to rule over you, kill you, slave you. They shouldn't have that right. They do it, but they shouldn't do it. You have rights as a person, as a human being, because you're born to be free. You're not born to be a slave. And the Bible teaches that we are all sinners. Look at a child. Yeah, they're selfish. That's the nature of children. They have to learn that they're not the center of the world. But children aren't evil. They're nice. They're good. And you teach them right, they'll grow up to be good. People are not creations of God. We came from our parents. Our mother raised us. Our character of a person is dependent on what went in their eyes and ears, on their environment. I'm not talking about the trees and grass. I'm saying it's dependent on their teachers, their parents, their peers. More importantly, television, which took up so many hours, of the music they hear, of the books they read. They are influenced by what goes in their eyes and ears, our eyes and ears, and how we process that information. That is what creates our character, and the decisions we make from the choices we're given, which are not all the same. We're given choice, the decisions we make, which is based on our experiences. This is what creates us, not God. Yeah, our mothers made us in her womb. That is not God to me. Okay. Now, in the Constitution, it basically gives us freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Doesn't say what religion, just says freedom of religion. In other words, believe the bullshit. You can spread your bullshit, your kingdom of hell, to everybody, and perfectly fine. Nobody can stop you from preaching, worshiping Satan, going into the occult. It's your right. And you can bring people in your hell realm, deceive them all you want to. Without freedom of press, you can deceive the people. Now, I'm not for censoring people's opinions. I'm not for censoring truth, no matter what the truth is. What I am for is censorship of deliberate lies meant to harm people. And there are plenty of them out there. And I will tell you the source of those lies right now. Not all of them, but of 95% of them. The news media is dominated by the CIA. And this is the book. I got most of the information. I found out much later, so I'll show you more. The book is called, let's get it right, Unreliable Sources. And it's by Solomon by Martin Lee and Norman Solomon. This book shows beyond a shadow of a doubt that the CIA dominates the news media. And there's other, Glenn Greenwald recently showed it, others have shown that the CIA still dominates the news media and has for decades and decades and decades. Since the CIA was formed in 1951, their memos found how they want to have, they were researching methods to control the masses using psychology and the news media in the 1950s. And there was propaganda going back to the 1920s when the banker Morgan gathered up a bunch of journalists and asked them how to control the information. Buy the top 25 journals and control the editing policies, and you will control the information people get and thus how they think. And of course, there was the book Propaganda by Edward Bernays, written around 1910, which showed propaganda methods to use. But it was used way before that. They had been training soldiers on how to be most efficient killers, be willing to kill that, through boot camp for many hundreds of years, thousands of years. Psychology has been used way before Freud was ever born, for centuries before different methods of psychology, as was taught in the Kemet mystery schools. So you see, psychology as we know it today is different than before, but it's been used to control people, manipulate them for a long time. And the Constitution was created by these rich, evil landowners that the Christians and Americans love so much because history has been rewritten and these people can't think, they don't research, they believe what they're told, and they believe the Bible too, as I did, until I saw the truth. I saw that the Bible is ruled by, it's all ruled by Satan. The Bible's a book of lies. Get this, it teaches you to be a sheep. That's a good thing, it says. A dumb following sheep that can't feed itself, know where to sleep, it has to be protected. That's a good thing, huh? It says, be not wise in your own eyes, just listen to God, don't think. It says, turn the cheek. When you're weak, you are strong. Return good to evil. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. When you're persecuted for righteousness, rejoice. Don't get angry. In the Old Testament, the Holy Spirit, and by the way, the original Hebrew words for Holy Spirit are Ruach HaKodesh. And Ruach is wind or breath. And Kodesh means holiness. And basically, translated holiness, it basically means outside of worldliness, away from lust and greed and selfishness. And basically, it is not a personhood of God. It is a force within you that makes you fight against wrong attitudes, character traits. And, as we know, the Old Testament talks about Baal, the god of prosperity and virility, sex and money, just like we have here in America and everywhere around the world. But basically, David, he took down Goliath when he was under the Spirit. Elijah, under the Spirit, called down fire from heaven and killed 450 prophets of Baal. Samson, under the Spirit, destroyed 1,000 Philistines with a jawbone of a donkey. This is what the Holy Spirit did in the Old Testament. But in the New Testament, it's about joy and patience and kindness and love and nicety. And then it says, because against these there is no such law. So, bow down to the emperor. Obey everything he tells you to. Because there's no law against being kind and love. So don't want to break any of his laws. The evil emperor creates laws to oppress you with. Don't break a law. And be gentle and nice and patient with your enemies. That's what the Holy Spirit is. It's no longer fighting against evil and oppression. Now it's about being patient and kind and gentle. Because you slaves, obey your wicked masters. Obey your politicians. They're there by God sent them. You have to honor and obey them. They're good. The politicians are good, the Bible teaches you. And the pastors all tell you to vote for Trump. Your votes don't matter, and I'll tell you about that later. But I'll tell you about that now. Bush, the family Bushes, the presidents, owns the ballot machines. And they're operated by the CIA. And they have for decades. Trump, he probably did win the election. But he also probably didn't win against Hillary. We don't know who we voted for many decades. They put in power who they want in power, including Trump, including Biden, Bush, Obama, and all the rest. They're put in power by the real powers. The president has very little power, if any at all. Politicians are the entertainment division of government. And then we'll go into more later when I show you who really rules. Now, Constitution. Now, in 1781, there was the Treaty of Verona. We'll go into that right now. I'm going to look this up in my book here. I want to quote this also. Okay. As if the founding fathers had not done enough to destroy our freedoms, values, and rights enough, the Treaty of Verona, signed in 1822 by the King of England, the Pope, and world leaders, furthered the purposes of the high contracting powers, the masters, and they decreed that representative forms of government and those governments that recognize the sovereignty of all its citizens are incompatible with divine rights. And they agreed to exercise efforts to end such governments. And we don't have a representative government here in the United States. It just appears we do. The United States does not have representatives in power. As in all nations, the politicians line their pockets, then do the will of the rich and the Vatican, and ultimately of Satan, who is the highest power. And the second thing that these powers agreed to was that the freedom of the press was a detriment to the power, and they agreed to adopt measures to suppress the press. And look what's happening now. And finally, they agreed that religion contributed powerfully in maintaining the populace in a submissive and obedient state. So the high contracting powers agreed to further the Vatican's efforts and policies and measures to control the people. So that is what our leaders are deciding, closed doors in secrecy. Not how to benefit us, or for peace, or end oil problems, or to stop global warming, which, by the way, was created with chemtrails of magnesium oxide, aluminum dioxide, barium, and other chemicals or metals, little tiny flakes of metals, which created the greenhouse effect that gave us global warming. Not created by oil, from carbon monoxide from cars and such. No, it was created intentionally, deliberately, so it can put on us the New World Order. So, I'm not going. And by the way, in 1781, I'm going back your ways because I forgot to tell you this. 1781 was the Congress of Wilhelmsbad. And remember I told you earlier of how Rothschild and Jesuit, Adam Weishaupt, the first Jesuit, got together forming the Illuminati. Well, in 1781, they met with the Freemasons at the Congress of Wilhelmsbad, and they united forces. So now we had the other people joining the Illuminati, other rich bankers. So now we had the rich, the very rich, you own England, the very rich, the Vatican, the most powerful religion of the world, and the Freemasons, basically devout Christians and warriors. And their bankers, also other rich people. And they all got together at the Congress of Wilhelmsbad. At that time, some of the Freemasons would not agree. And they had great fear. It was recorded. They were very fearful and nervous that they saw did not bode well. Something was told them that disturbed them greatly. And maybe it was what's happening now. Because in 1871, a letter by Albert Pike, who was an Illuminati, a Freemason, a high-degree Freemason, and he was also one of the founders of the Ku Klux Klan. In 1871, he wrote a letter to a Mazzini, an Illuminati, Spanish Illuminati, but outlining, in 1871, outlining World War I as it happened, the creation of Russia as a communist nation as it happened, World War II as it happened, the creation of Israel as a Jewish state, as it later happened. 1871 wrote this, including World War III and World War IV, and then the installing of their God, Lucifer, to rule over everybody. And so you understand their agenda now. And the exact quotes, the exact letter is in my books, in Exposed Mind and Machine and Angry God and Clear Truth. You can see it all for yourself. Now, understand, psychology has been known for many centuries, and it's been used to propagandize people, create wrong thinking, to rule over each other. It has been a tool of evil for rulers, and understand the nature. As I told you, God being Satan, gods are the problem. Children in their natural state, and growing into adults, they remain in their natural state, are good. They are righteous. I am still my natural state. Yes, I had sex many years ago. I recovered. I take a small psychiatric medicine to keep me natural. I'm still in the natural realm. I'm 64 years old. I was born in 1957, but I'm still in the natural realm. I'm damn good, damn smart, and damn strong. And I do the research. I'm like a hybrid. I had oral sex, not regular sex. a number of years ago. I was manipulated into by an intelligent, crafty woman. I wanted her as my wife because I tried to break away from her over half a dozen times trying to get rid of her. She latched on me. And, well, it is what it is. Now I'm like a hybrid, and I can think very well. I'm not in any pain of hell. I'm in the natural realm. I think very clearly. I'm honest to the letter, and full of integrity, truth, and most righteous actions and deeds and intentions and motivations. I know you can't take it from words because most people are liars. Anybody can say those words. My life shows it. Now there's a Training Armies, Occulted and Religion, Treaty of Verona. Okay, Ignatius Loyola, letter of 1871. Rothschild. Okay, Rothschild. The Rothschild family now owns the central bank. Our Federal Reserve owns the central bank of virtually every nation. Only 5 small nations are not controlled by Rothschild. Maybe he has them by now too. So Rothschild owns the central banks. He prints up currencies at the cost of paper and ink and sells them at face value. And he's been doing that here in America for over a century. So you can imagine his wealth. Every bit of work done by everybody, just almost everybody on the planet, profits Rothschild entirely. Now, people, of course, manipulate others through money, buy things, buy people, buy countries. Now, also, the Queen of England, the British royalty, they own 1/5 of real estate on the entire planet. The sun never sets on the British Empire. Now, I forgot to go into something which is about Rome. The Roman Empire, by the way, including England, Spain, and France, of course. When Rome dissolved and the Vatican still remained, the Roman Empire countries, France, England, Spain, and others, Belgium, etc., what they do? They use Columbus and others to so-called discover other continents and nations. And what they do? They conquered them. They killed them. Genocide. Oppressive rule. Slavery. They conquered China by introducing opium and imposing opium on them, destroyed their character, their whole lives with opium. And then they conquered the Chinese. They conquered everybody for their god, Satan, to spread his kingdom everywhere, for ultimate rule he will have in a little while if they're successful. And that is the nature of the European god, Christianity. I'm not saying that Islam is saintly or Judaism is saintly. They're not. They're pretty damn bad too. Because they worship the same God. But they didn't want to spread out everywhere like the Romans certainly did. The Romans are more obedient to that God. And they're so nice and holy, aren't they? So the white establishment is so pretty and saintly and holy. I'll tell you so. Okay. Now, Rockefeller, he owned Standard Oil, became a millionaire, hundreds of millions, and equivalent to billions today. He's very rich. And what did he do? He created, using manipulating money, the education system and the allopathic medical system. He got rid of holistic doctors. He made it so that only pharmaceuticals and surgery would be employed to so-called heal people. Yeah. We see now the current situation, how wonderful pharmaceuticals are. My book, Angry Loud and Clear Truth, debunks the allopathic medical system, buries it, shows it was designed by Rockefeller to enslave, to addict you, to harm you. Me too. Not me wanting to harm you, but harming me also. Harms everybody. Vitamin C, a natural curative. Vitamin D, zinc, these are good cures. Selenium, those are better curatives. They're vitamins. Natural. Furthermore, he also created the education system. He donated money to colleges. And, of course, they have to follow his policies to do that. So he created their policies. He created how they taught, what they taught. And in colleges today, people are not taught to think. They are taught to obey, to memorize. They think that by learning to memorize and obey makes them smarter than people who didn't go to college. I am self-educated. I went to college. I finished less than a year. I have like 23 credits. I was not a good student, but I learned later, and many years later, to think by reading and studying and researching, questioning and challenging. And this Rockefeller, by the way, also founded David Rockefeller. John Rockefeller, all in the 1800s, created the education system, allopathic medical system. But David Rockefeller's grandson founded the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. He appointed all the members. They are who make legislation. They bought the government. The government just, the Congress and Senate will pass it. What they're told, they rubber stamp what they get from the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. And they, by the way, the CIA dominated news, the media are all in on the Council on Foreign Relations. There's about 300 members, 100 of them are in the media. So you see how important it is to steer and guide and manipulate the minds of people and make them think the way the rulers want us to think. Because all the concepts of the news, but also the education system, everything, they make us who we are. They program us to think the way they want us to. They make boxes of thinking for us to fit into. For instance, politics. We all think of democracies, republics, fascists, parliamentary, socialism, communism, and that's about all we can think of because that's what we're taught. But nobody thinks outside the boxes. It's all got to fit into a box, and I am outside the box of thinking. I have an original idea for civilization and how to implement it that would get rid of every problem in this world. Yeah, people would still get a cold here, but it would rid us of every world problem, even bad behavior of children, because we'd have mentors teaching the children, sit in front of the television, and going to a school, taught questionably. Mentors, and each mentor have just a few kids, like 5 kids, 7 kids, but teaching 24/7 ethics, knowledge, challenging authority, respecting but challenging authority, to think on their own, to research, to have great ethics, to think of other people, be considerate, to love others, to work hard, to exercise body and mind, and to basically to be developed into good human beings and citizens, not taught information to memorize and repeat and obey. Because I'm not a tyrant. I'm somebody who wants freedom and liberty for all. And that's what the children should be, I believe, would be best served in doing that rather than learning to repeat what they're told. To think on their own. Now, American imperialism. This is how the American Empire went. Through the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, third world nations were loaned billions of dollars to fix their infrastructure. That's what they were told. And this is revealed by John Perkins. You can look him up. And basically, they are put in deep debt, but never enough to do the trick. Then, of course, the money goes in the pockets of the dictators. The money would go to corporations. The infrastructure was never in any nation finished. What they do is say, okay, give us some more. We want to finish up their infrastructure. We can't work with it the way it is now. It destroyed our country. We've got to fix it up. And they're always so, no, you can't have more. Now you got to repay. If you can't repay, we will use your military. You'll give us your oil at half price. Your natural resources. You'll have your people work for us for pennies. We'll exploit your people, and that's how you'll get us to give you more billions in the future. So you see. And this is how it took over countries. And of course the CIA, leads these color revolts, leads rebellions, makes unrest in socialist nations and successful socialist nations. They always put in dictators that follow the U.S., benefits the U.S., the Roman-American Empire. Okay, told you about the source of CIA, Nazis or CIA. The CIA is aligned with the military. And get this. The Jesuit general, and the current one's name is Sosa Abascal. The Jesuit general rules over the policies of all banking, all Freemasonry, and the secret intelligence of every nation. They all work together. That is why Maxwell and Epstein had that island where all the powerful people went, including Trump, and they were filmed having sex, and Trump raped a young 13-year-old girl with a witness, But that isn't found in the media, because the media is so much against Trump. And that's why they didn't report on this. They could find it. I found it. So you see how much you're duped. Everybody's duped to think the media was against Trump. They hardly mentioned Trump University. He was convicted of a huge fraud while he was campaigning in 2016. Huge fraud. Trump University. Look it up if you can find it. He scammed thousands of people, convicted while campaigning, and it hardly met the news because there's so much against Trump. Yeah, of course they had stuff against him, but not the real stuff. And by the way, to impeach a president, all you need to do is prove that he violated the public trust. Nixon was impeached for wiretapping him in opposition and lying about it. Clinton was impeached for having sex with one of his people and lying about it. Now, Trump, they couldn't find lies. Well, the New York Times found 7,500 lies by the end of 2018. They couldn't impeach about Russia. Or that's all bull. No. But they should have impeached him for his lies and deceptions. But they didn't want to impeach him. That was not their true agenda. Their true agenda was to pretend they were. And all these politicians work together. They're chum and buddy behind the scenes. But in front of everybody, they're throwing mud, wrestling. It's all an act. All this is a deception, a grand deception to mislead you and cause infighting, division, subversion, diversion, entertainment, anything but to educate and inform you. Okay. Now we know about the Great Reset. At least I know about the Great Reset. You should too. The Great Reset, also known as the New World Order, the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, all the same thing. And that's the plans of the elite, the Vatican and these globalists, Illuminati. And they basically plan to have a world population of 500 million by the year 2025. And this will be done with pharmaceuticals. You know how. I'm not going to mention it now because I want this video to go. But pharmaceuticals will cause death of millions of people with spike proteins and such. Immune systems will be destroyed. Yeah. Now, furthermore, also, we're going to see the wars coming, World War, nuclear weapons. There are FEMA camps, basically death camps. They have other ways too. They have ways to kill. They intend to reduce world population. Georgia Guidestone shows the 500 million, and I basically found it by 2025. Okay, so currently the world population is about 7.8 billion. So they plan to kill off about 15 out of every 16 people on the planet. And most of the survivors will be Chinese. Understand, Chinese already have the credit system. People, under this new Great Reset, most people will be transhumanists. They'll be a hive mind with help to computers. For eternal life, it's all confusing how they describe, but they have biotechnology in the pharmaceutical things. You know what I'm talking about. And they also have spike proteins, have things that destroy the immune system. And they plan to kill us off. And there'll be few people left alive. Those left alive will have no free will. There'll be no thinking against the tyranny. They will control your thinking. They'll control what you see. They'll control what you say. You say something bad, and they'll cut off your income because your banks will be connected to your mobile phones, and so everything else. Or also, it'll be even chipped inside you, and they can cut off your buying power. They can punish you without even needing police. Even say one little wrong thing, and you can't buy your food or your medicine. And so they can control the public very, very stringently that way, and that's their intention. They want total control, rule over you. And this is by the character of the people, by the way, the Vatican, the pedophiles. Like Trump, who raped that 13-year-old. The politicians, they're rapists, they're pedophiles, they're liars, they're murderers. Hillary had how many people murdered? These are the worst, lowest scum of the earth. And they want to rule over us. For all our future children be like having a boot stepping on their face for all eternity. That is a future these wonderful people have in plan for you. And me and all our children. Now, let us take a look think about the television. Television is a great propaganda tool. It diverts, subverts, divides, black against white, Christian against Muslim. Yeah, 9/11, by the way, was a demolition job. My book, Loud and Clear Truth, proves that every politician in D.C. was complicit. They told in Jane's Defense newsletter, said months ahead of time they plan to invade Afghanistan in October of 2001. Months ahead of time. BBC also said so, as did Times of India. All said months before 9/11, in 2001, they all said that U.S. had planned to invade Afghanistan. But we said it was because of the Twin Towers. Yeah, you believe what you want. And I also have more proof. Of course, we've seen many people have shown that the Twin Towers were brought down by demolition not by planes. So, and Building 7 was not hit by a plane, but that went down also in another tower that you don't even know about because it was too unbelievable. You know what happened, so it wasn't shown on television or in the news. But Building 7, a little shorter building, but still one of the towers, it also went down because that was a headquarters of the FBI, and they had a lot of information there they wanted gone. And they of course, they evacuated it. But, you know, these are things that the so-called journalists, the bought entertainers, don't want you to know, or the government doesn't want to know, and they will not tell you because they're handmaidens to the CIA. Now, television is created by capitalists, and it programs you into consumerism, into materialism. Buy that new car, that big house, those nice appliances, the jewelry, the sexy clothing, because you want to look sexy. You want to have that immediate gratification of sugar. You want the drugs in your eyes and ears, the cocaine, the symbolism. Cocaine is symbolism. It's basically another word for it. And it affects you the same as a drug would if you once you're into that hell realm. But they want to promote sex with showing flesh all the time with every advertisement. This is the media. It wants you to buy into it, go to college so you can get that big house. They'll indoctrinate you in college and program you to fit into the thinking of the rulers and make more riches for the rulers, paying you pennies, and you're a slave to them. And you're basically taught to be a sex toy, to follow directions, obey. In college, that's how wonderful it is. And then you have to be put into deep debt. And then the mortgage comes and the car loans, and you have to obey your boss, kill people, poison them, cage them if you're a cop. All this to conform to the establishment. They rule over you because of your debt, to be conformed and programmed with how they want you to think, and to be basically whores for the rich people, screwing the people for your money. Okay, now you got the picture. And was this done unintentionally? I don't think so. We have freedom of religion and freedom of the press by our wonderful founding fathers you love so much, don't you? You conservatives, okay? Now, by the way, communism was created by the same rich bankers. They had planned it, like I said, in 1871, and it is not any better. It's actually worse. But, yes, there's equality. And, I don't need any nice, rich clothing. I don't mind being poor. I am poor. I don't have a vehicle. I don't have a stove. I live in one room. But, it's a nice, comfortable for me. I enjoy my life. I have purpose in it all, so it's a very good life. I don't need riches. Communism, I don't care that countries are basically poor. I don't mind that. I just don't want the rule. They have prisons also. But, by the way, the U.S. is the highest incarceration rate in the world. And guess what? We have some states with the three-strike law where, in your third charge or third conviction, you are put in jail the rest of your life for at least for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Even if it's to steal a pack of bubblegum, whatever your third conviction is, you're in for a long, long time. And in those states, they also have forced labor. And guess what else? You're not paid, or you're paid a few pennies an hour, literally like 10 cents an hour. So in other words, there is slavery. Now, let me take it a step further. All races do about an equal amount of rate of people, an equal percentage of people doing drugs, but somehow 3 times as many blacks are arrested for drugs as whites. But there's no systemic racism. The conservatives will tell you so, and then you know that's true. The politicians will prove to you that there is no racism anywhere. Well, they'll prove to you by saying so. That's their proof. Believe the bull. Now, communism, there is no real freedom. It's like totalitarianism. That's a real problem. And yes, I believe in owning maybe where you live or your clothing, your music. You don't really need to own much of else. But, same point, I'm not a communist. I don't want powers of people ruling over me and everybody else, controlling how we behave. I'm not all for it because they may not be so good themselves. Okay? I don't mind people, being told to be righteous and do good. But when evil people rule, there's a problem. You can't control who rules you all the time. You can vote in people not knowing their character, as has happened here in the U.S., where I live. Okay. Everybody seems to want shiny, glittery, bright, shiny, glittery stuff. Diamond rings, new car with lots of curves on it, that big, nice house painted nicely, the mansion, the chariot, the castle, the trophy wife because she's got to be sexy. That's what matters. And all this is due to television and to control. This is psychology. This is propaganda. And that's how they control you. We want to earn this stuff. To earn these bright, shiny, glittery stuff, you will do as they tell you to. I told you how ballot machines control, so we have no free elections, really. They place who they want in power. And the just general controls all this. And now, so you understand the situation that has been designed for centuries to be destructive and for our ruin by Satan-worshipping followers, but the Vatican, the Romans from way day one have been evil. They've been conquering lands, killing people, enslaving them. This is going on for a long time. This New World Order, which in Romerica, as I call it, it's been planned for a while. And you see this. And they now control every world ruler. They all fall in line. My solution? Simple. It's called revolution. World revolution. This video needs to go out globally. And most of mine do, but more people have to see it. Now, furthermore, this is I suggest, you don't have to go around killing off the whole army, going against the whole army. You don't need to be killing everybody and fighting, killing, and destroying, rioting. That would be counterproductive. They are capable to do. The police force here in the United States are armed with military surplus because we have guns. The citizens have guns. There could be great fighting here if the police choose to, and do or should say as they do as told. They will be told to. If they choose to obey the orders, and they are order followers. Their bosses are the politicians, and They don't protect the people. They protect the interests of the powerful and wealthy. That's a policeman's job. Even the Supreme Court said it was not a duty of a police to protect the citizens. But they do protect the interests of the powerful and wealthy. They break strikes. They beat up and jail protesters. They are not for the people. Never have been. They start off as slave patrols. And then pulled up by gangsters. They work, most despicable people, the police. They are there to protect and serve. That's what we're told. That's bullshit. They're there to submit you, to make you submit. I have been in prison for writing my book. My first major book, Exposed the Money Machine. I was put in prison for that. I've been incarcerated twice for the same incident, threatened my sister's property. Put in prison for it. I never meant to do anything to it. I even went there, did nothing to her property. But it served their purposes to imprison me because I had just written a book that was highly revealing. Now, let us go on. I have a solution to all world problems, every world problem, and it's by basically the right kind of civilization. There's no need for jails. There'll be no crime, no drugs. Kids will grow up well. There'll be even close the gate to hell. There'll be no physical sex, no sex. Period. Once the next generation comes, no physical sex, artificial insemination, and once the mother weans a child, the child be raised by mentors who teach men, the best ones in the community do it. So basically, self-sustaining, and this is not the New World Order, their great reset, not that kind. Self-sustaining agricultural communities with no technology, except for, say, blacksmiths, carpentry. Yeah, have metal, create metal with blacksmiths and carpentry, make tables, work with wood, glass blowing, ceramics. You get a picture. Like the Amish do, but without the religion and without sex and quite a few other differences. But in communities of up to 150 people, science has shown that 150 people is the most you can have for intimate, where you know everybody, working in harmony with each other, get to know everybody, and live at peace with everybody, and it's an ideal number. So up to 150 people in each community. And they're, basically farming like they did for thousands of years. No government. No rulers. No bosses. There's a community of cooperation. And if you have an issue with somebody, every week there's a gathering. On a Sunday, Saturday, whatever. One day a week you have a gathering. And there you have food, you have entertainment, entertain each other, you feed each other, you get together, meet, you have some music if you want. What else? You discuss things. Policy making. Everybody gets a vote. Decide on what you want to do. Discuss it all amongst yourselves and make your vote right away. If anybody has a gripe against somebody else, you bring it up there. Give your evidence. Let everybody see it, and they all vote. And there's no prison. You do something wrong, restitution, and the whole community decides what you'll do in agreement with the victim and the perpetrator. So everybody is pleased that way. No time in prison. No. This is not rocket science to figure out. It's outside the box thinking that is clear and easy once you are away from the Bible. I haven't looked at it now for about 6 years, 7 years. Away from the television. I haven't watched television in my home since 2004. Only while I was incarcerated, I would look at it rarely when I had absolutely nothing else to do and there's something really exciting going on. So I have not been indoctrinated. I don't watch fiction. I watch documentaries. I read articles. I research 80 hours a week. I exercise my mind my mind strongly every day. I exercise physically rigorously every day. 150 squats a set. 150 sit-ups a set. I'm 64 years old. Find somebody my strength. I don't have the defined muscles because at my age I didn't start my exercise until I was like 56, 57. I was like 57 years old when I started exercising. I have not been doing it long, and at this age, your muscles are not so defined, and so look like my stomach is not a washboard, but it is. I am damn strong and damn great health because I also eat organic foods only, no sugar, no meat. If we're meant to eat meat, we would have fangs like carnivores, but we have cuspids and molars for biting and chewing and grinding. We should be eating like chimpanzees who have similar teeth. Nuts, fruits, vegetables, roots. You get the picture. I eat eggs for protein, nuts for protein, beans have some protein in them. This is healthy eating. This is what you should be doing. And organic, not GMOs. And GMOs have been designed to take us down. We'll be eating bugs if they have their way. That is the agenda of the people who rule over you. And every world ruler, get this, to get a position in charge in any world government, you have to prove loyalty to the agenda of the globalists and the Vatican. Every Democrat and Republican must prove loyalty to their agenda to get any significant position. And the ballot machines, as I've said, are rigged. Trump was not the first president to lose an election that we think we elected. We don't know. And we haven't for a long, long time. And they've always been deceiving us. They planned this from the start. They were never looking out for our good. They serve Satan. Now we're going on to an ultimate confrontation between evil, which is the ones in power, and the good. That's righteous people of every color, every religion, every non-religion, but mostly the poor and some middle class. These are rich motherfuckers. They have sold themselves a long time. There are some good ones, but most of them have sold themselves. You don't get rich without conforming and selling. Some people do, but very few. Entertainers, yeah, you see all the symbology they do, and you see how most of them promoted, what they were told to the real epidemic we had, as you heard. Now, target the key figures. Take them out of the picture. Once Rothschild, Rockefeller, British royalty, Reynolds, Lee, and DuPont, the Vatican, the rulers, these are key people. You take them away. You remove them from this planet. And then you can restore the planet to righteousness. You can put in the civilization I propose. It is fully written out. I have the complete blueprint in the conclusion of Angry, Loud, and Clear Truth. My book, Angry, Loud, and Clear Truth. Now, if you can find a way to sign up for my newsletter, it is attached to every newsletter I send out. It is free. I live like a poor man, which is fine with me. I have everything I need and most of what I want. I'm fine. I don't need your money. Yes, you can also get it on Amazon for $3 to download your computer. The internet and computers will not work much longer. Energy grid will go down. If you can, I suggest you buy it in print. You can buy it in print from Amazon for $12 and have it mailed to you if the mail service is still going. But it is attached to my newsletter, the blueprint for an ideal civilization. We are in a death situation now. The powers want to destroy us. This is not just pie in the sky dreaming. They have put it into implementation. Martial law's ready. Prison camps, and get this, I know it sounds crazy, but they have guillotines in there. 30,000 guillotines here in the U.S. were made and put in these FEMA camps. This has been documented. I've sent it out in my emails with links to the website showing so. I'm not deceived. I know that a lot of this is unbelievable. It's conspiracy. It is not conspiracy theory. It is conspiracy fact. If you can't get it now, if you don't understand by now what's going on, you're just damn blind and stupid. You've been deceived. I know it's hard to believe that you've been lied to from the start. Oh, everybody's been lying to you. I know it's hard to believe. But when they control the media and the education system, that was the key. And that is why if he who controls the media controls the mind. And they know this. They created the media. The internet was developed by military intelligence, researchers. It's part of the intelligence and the internet. So you understand what they've been doing. The memes, the algorithms, all designed to keep you divided and infighting. Democrats against Republicans, white against black, rich against poor, and that's actually, it really is class warfare. Democrat against Republican. Everything they can to divide us. We fight one another instead of real people. We should be fighting our rulers. This should not be a civil war. This should be a revolution. So you see, come out of the Christian faith, my people. I was a Christian. Not anymore. I'm no Muslim. I'm not a Muslim. I am not an atheist. I know there's a God. I refuse to bow down. You see, I bend my knee to none. I suggest the same for you. My life is wonderful. Now, some people, like myself, are righteous and want to influence you. Other people who are evil, they'll say they're righteous. They also want to influence you. So let me ask you something. Is it that good people want to promote and give you a good life? Or bad people want to bring you into their hell life? The answer is both. Good people do want good for you. Bad people want bad for you. I know this sounds crazy, that like guns and, revolution, that's bad guys. Oh, bad guys want revolution. That's funny. The United States wanted revolution at one point too, didn't it? So revolution is not always bad. At least they seem good in American Revolution. You consider them good American Revolution. Revolution can be good if it's necessary. And right now, I'm promoting revolution in every nation to save our lives and our freedom. Nothing else can do it. We could take measures previously. If we'd done this years ago, we could prevent this without revolution. And how can we prevent millions and millions of... Well, first of all, they plan to kill over 7 billion people. That is their plan if we don't fight. If we do fight, there'll be millions killed. Millions and millions killed. Probably not billions, but probably many millions will die. If we target the rulers and can do this before they can defend themselves and take measures to defeat us, if we do it right now, take down the rulers, target them, maybe 30,000 people die. All taken care of. All the Vatican, all the globalists, all the rulers, the CIA, etc. And some CIA are good, So you see, there is an answer. And then I basically have in my campaign platform, which I attach to my newsletter, there is also a platform for what a ruler could do to slowly, or not slowly, but basically to transform us from the civilization we have now to these self-sustaining agricultural communities. And there would be a transformation and a renewed life on this planet, far better. Even the gates of hell closed. Children born would not go to hell. There'd be no sex. There'd be no religion. Those are the gates of hell. And they'd be taught to be good kids, good adults, right from the childhood by mentors, right from very young, from infancy. So now you see the plans. These are not bad. Getting rid of television, internet with all its corruption and addictions to pharmaceuticals, to sugar, to sex, to alcohol, to drugs. All these addictions promoted on the media. It can be removed. All of it. To live healthy, wholesome, good lives of achievement and of upstanding character rather than in entertainment and leisure. Take your pick. Choose wisely. Again, Michael Kahn, author and revolutionist. My books are Exposing the Money Machine, The Untold Nature of Christianity, and Angry, Loud, and Clear Truth. Strength, power, and an informed, educated knowledge for all.